Everyone who I believe is supposed to be here is here, so we are going to call this meeting to order. First item, as usual, is the approval of consent agenda items. Anything to add for the consent agenda items this month?
So the consent agenda is a collection of all of the routine items that the board has to approve each month. So the agenda, the minutes, the statistics, the financial report, they're all looped in together. They get to review those ahead of time. If they have any questions or need something changed, like if there was an error in the minutes, then they would pull that out and vote on it separately. But if everything looks good, they can vote to approve it just collectively in one fell swoop. As far as
anything for you
details,
to note?
No, I mean,
Okay.
we're still early in the year. We're busy as we usually are, but nothing extreme has happened to skew anything one way or the other as far as the budget or the statistics. So
Any questions or concerns from any board members?
So, these are just things of numbers, right? I mean, so the interlibrary loan is a 77% drop, but it went from like 13 to 3, so that's no big deal.
yeah,
Okay.
some of these things, it's just,
Okay.
I do highlight in yellow the numbers that, something for you to focus on, because I do give you so many numbers in the statistical report. So you can see, okay, this month we had 47,000 items circulate.
Usage of remote from you asked by out of town patients.
I'm sorry,
That's the usage of remote from you asked by out of town patients.
we're gonna talk about that in great detail
Sorry, I
later.
just thought I'd love your name.
It's coming. It's coming.
Do you think the 2 days closed had a big impact?
I don't know that it's a big impact. I actually, when I
Yeah.
was putting my report together, let's see, where are my notes here? So that would mean over the course of the year, we will be open, or over the course of the month, I guess, 9.5% fewer hours than a typical January. So if there's a reduction in the statistics, it's not going to be a surprise, but
Hurt you in any way, because I mean, it really was the right thing to do. I would hate to see that
yes.
come
And-
back at you in any way.
Well, honestly, the decision was taken out of my
Yeah.
hands, so.
Yeah.
That's on key.
Yeah, but it
How
was
would that
still the
hurt us
right,
in any way
it was still the right.
It doesn't because,
Declared emergency, that's why.
it was declared an emergency, and as far as the statistics that we send into the state, they haven't actually run the formula in over 20 years. So all of those numbers we send in,
It comes out in the wash at this point, I would guess.
they've basically run the same numbers for 20+ years. So nothing we do one way or the other makes a big difference as far as the statistics.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion to approve?
Move.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Pews first. All in favor, aye. Aye. Any nays? Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to our comments from observers section. We do have an observer. What was your name again? Caitlin. I'm Bob Taylor, by the way. I'm the board president, so I get the honor of running these little shindigs and just nice to meet you and keep us moving along from one item on the agenda to next. We do have during every meeting, we do have a comments from observers section on our agenda that is basically almost never used, although occasionally. So you are here if you have any questions or wanted to say anything about yourself or your job or. Okay, happy to observe.
Yes.
Well, we're glad you're here. No observers online, I assume.
No, except for Anthony, but he's a participant.
Anthony is
so
not
he's
an
a
observer.
panelist.
He's a panelist.
So.
He's a celebrity panelist.
Be careful what you wish for.
Game show with like the panel of 9 people sitting in the queue.
It's like the
Oh,
Hollywood Squares, yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to comments from Prince, the library president.
Guys, can I interrupt for just a second? I can't hear Susan, unfortunately, and I don't know if it's the owl or something else, but she sounds like she's talking out of a tin can, which obviously she's not.
You move the owl and Susan is gonna speak up.
I will talk louder. But with the input from Pete, Bob, Robin, and I, we did update it. We only changed maybe 6 words throughout the whole thing. And I brought it tonight. Bob will sign, I will sign, and we'll each have an original for that.
So for the record, this is the memorandum of
Yes,
understanding between the
yes.
Friends and the library.
Right.
Do we have a copy we can pass around just so the other board members can look at it?
I think I might have brought some extras.
If you just have the PDF, I can email it to everyone tomorrow.
That's probably best.
Yeah, I was
You don't
gonna
have to
say-
worry about.
Okay, it's off my list of things to worry about. But I have the original, and like I said, I think we removed administrative because there are no administrative people, because Robin's the director and whomever she would appoint. So I think we'll just sign this before we leave,
Okay.
and that'll kind of get that taken care of. And the memorandum is, like Robin said, between the library and the Friends, and then it's what the library will do and what the Friends will do and how everybody's on the same page. So that's that. You met our vice president last meeting. That's working out really well. Really happy that she said, please pick me. She and I get together every other Friday so that, for 1 hour. So that, so she becomes familiar with that role is. I want to mention, we have a volunteer named Ina Silver. She's been with us, this might be her 2nd year. She handles the baubles, which may or may not mean anything to you. The baubles are trinkets and jewelry and little things. So, she had a container about this big and it was full of tuxedo studs. Not a real big marketplace for tuxedo studs, but she's just so amazing. She puts that thing aside and then she looks at it later and tries to figure out what are we doing here. Well, she called me yesterday morning and she said, Susan, are you sitting down? And I wasn't, but I said, yes, because I sat down. And she said, well, I'm at the treasure hunt parking lot. And I have a check from treasure hunt payable to the Friends for $1,000.
Whoa.
Those tuxedo
Were they
studs
diamonds?
no, but they were 14 karat and 24 karat gold. So she brought it in and deposited it today.
Wow.
So we are so lucky to have her. She grew up in a family that owned a jewelry store, so she's familiar with that. And she is one of the most gracious, lovely people. And whenever I'm just gushing all over the place about how happy I am, she said, but this is my happy place. So she just really likes to be able to be here and do that. So, I mean, I look at her now and I think, well, you're just more than amazing. On March 7th, the PCBL, Pennsylvania Citizens for Better Library, and the Pennsylvania Library Association, I guess maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we joined forces and have an institute virtually it's gonna be on March the 7th. Robin has signed us up to have it here. I think there's 3 classes, 3 different times. So last year, I think people from your board came, Robin.
Yeah, there are usually about 5 of us all together.
And we had some people from the Friends board. It's, I don't have the titles of the different courses.
One of the sessions will be live because
Yes, I
Susan
will
is
be here.
presenting.
Doing a session on vintage book sales.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing it with one of the volunteers who handles our old Friends books. So she's got a great depth of knowledge. I will be the question asker. I'll just.
And I will be sending out something next week to everyone to let me know if you're coming and so that I can order your lunch. You get lunch from Panera because it's easy and you can tweak it for all your dietary needs, so it's.
They talk about things that are pertinent to
Mhm.
boards, trustee
Yes.
boards. They
It's the
talk about
Friends and
things that.
Trustees Institute.
And I think it's not 50-50. I think it's a little more slanted towards the Friends or the library trustee boards. But you could almost sit in any session and get something from it. So let Robin know if you're coming. It's a worthy day. And I think that's all I have.
Okay,
So that's it. Thank you.
sounds good. Anybody have any questions for Susan?
Just real quick, do you guys have the time or times for that event?
I believe it starts at 9:30.
I think something like 9:30 to 2 or something.
Yeah.
I'll send out more information either the end of this week or early next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. And our commission liaison, Anne, is up to the plate.
Ann Swoggle Wilson. Okay, so we have two new commissioners who were sworn in the beginning of January, Nick Petty from Ward 4 and Margaret Izzo from Ward 2. We spent most of January's meetings reviewing sort of what the commission has been up to for the past couple of years to bring them up to snuff. At our last meeting, we had a report from the consultants who are doing an active transportation plan. Active transportation is any transportation except cars. So it's walking, bicycle riding, scooters, segways, whatever you can dream up that you're gonna use instead of your car.
Public transportation.
Public transportation, yes. And we're doing this with Dormont to try to come up with pathways for folks that want to use alternative ways to get where they're going as opposed to a car. So I want to give you an example from the disability community that actually is pertinent to this. You know, as many of you know, my youngest has cerebral palsy and relies on a wheelchair to get around for the most part. They can walk a few steps, but that's their main mode of transportation. And when I was active in the disability community, one of the disabled adults said to me, you know, I wouldn't be disabled if it weren't for the environment. It's really that the environment is designed for my way of getting around only for those of you that are able-bodied. And that's always stuck with me because when I look at the active transportation plan, what we're saying is our transportation was pretty much designed for cars. We do have some sidewalks in certain neighborhoods and like 77% of the town actually is sidewalks. But we need some more. And it was the main driver of our latest strategic plan, our comprehensive plan was that people wanted more mobility. So hence the active transportation plan and doing it with Dormont because sometimes you have the unintended consequence of, let's say, you know, you have speeding on, trying to think, Bower Hill Road, which you do. Okay, so let's say you put speed bumps in, probably won't, but let's say you put speed bumps in, do you then force the traffic onto a neighborhood road so that people can avoid the speed bumps? So this way, if you're planning together as two communities, you try to keep the number of unintended consequences down and yet still improve the transportation. On that. We also received an $850,000 grant from the state of Pennsylvania for the rec center. This was one of my pushes in my early years as a commissioner, that we upgrade the rec center to make it ADA accessible. Imagine that. But if you're familiar with it, there's no connection between the first and second floor except for a back staircase. So you have to go outside and it's just not a very, yeah, I know. Well, it was designed in the 70s. So we did a plan for the main park and wrapped into it a plan for the rec center. And it was really a rough plan. There are no drawings for what might finally happen except for conceptual drawings. But the concepts were, what could we do to bring this up to standards for ADA and for those of us that are aging and have terrible knees and really could use an elevator from the first floor up to the second and then maybe back to the pool. Wouldn't that be great? So we did have that done. We have been looking at the middle solution. There were 3 solutions and, commissioner, so we went for the one in the middle. And yet we don't have any real architectural drawings yet. It's just conceptual. But we now have a grant for a project that would probably cost about $10 million. So, and it's not just for ADA, which is why, because it adds on some space to the front so that we can daylight staff offices and we can improve the entire circulation of the building. So it can't build over the ice rink because the foundation was not dug deeply enough to support a second story. So you have to only consider the front of the building. So we would add that on so that we had some additional meeting rooms and staff offices. But again, it's really preliminary. I just like to let you guys know the kind of things we are thinking about, but we haven't reached any.
Will you lose parking space if that happens, or is there's enough room there?
No, there's enough. But the real trick is, can we add parking spaces any place? I know. Well, make sure you tell your commissioners, because I've gotten pushback about that people can ride their bikes. And I'm like, yeah, unless you're me. I'm not riding my bike to the rec center.
Right, because the hill to get home.
Yeah,
That's the thing. Going down,
my knees
going
are
straight to rec
shot.
center is
Right,
fun.
it's just not.
Getting
So,
back to my house is like,
I know.
are we gonna get a ski lift for that?
I know. So,
And who gave the grant?
the state of Pennsylvania, so it went through, I think it was DCNR, but I'm not absolutely positive, Suzanne.
That would make sense.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm wrong. Scratch that. Chris Deluzio came out of his office.
Oh,
So that was a federal
Federal.
grant. I apologize. It was a federal grant. Apparently it was held up last year. There were no grants made from whatever pool this was, but it was released this year. So we got 850,000. And we have not heard about the grant for the library yet. As soon as we do,
Not until
Robin will
March,
know. And I'll know. We all have our fingers crossed for that.
yeah. And the bond issue timeline
Yeah,
is May, right? Correct?
as far as I know, at this point, yeah. Yeah, but we'll go ahead and float that anyways, fingers crossed, it'll all work. Gotta have a positive attitude.
When you say bond issue timeline is May, what does that mean?
So, the municipality has borrowing power because we have paid off debt as we move along every year. We have some borrowing power, and wrapped into the bond issue are some longer-term capital projects that we don't pay right out of yearly tax receipts, and one of them is the money for the first phase, part of the money for the first phase of the redo of the library, or the what other word should we use? Fresh up,
Renovation, yeah.
fresh up of the library,
the libraries blow up.
yeah.
There needs to be some lead time for the bonds to actually go to market too.
Yeah.
All the lawyers need
All
to
that stuff.
get all the paperwork done and everything, so
Right.
usually, by the time, you actually start the project, by the
Mhm.
actual, money coming into your account, probably about
Same, yeah.
4 or 5
Yeah.
months,
And
probably.
you get a little bit of time. If we get a grant for it, we have a certain, and I don't remember what the time period is. We have a certain period of time to be able to do it.
They also try and
Extend
time it
it.
on the market to optimize,
Mhm.
rates and everything, so it's not like, hey, we're gonna go to market on
Right.
May 10th.
Right.
It's, hey, we've got a window here that maybe we're looking at.
The library money would come from the state of Pennsylvania. That's who we applied to. The other
The
was
Keystone grant is, yeah,
Keystone grant, yeah.
that's through the Department of Education, I'm gonna say.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts?
We're talking about traffic and stuff. I still think people running red lights on uptown is the biggest issue. My wife,
That's a huge issue.
my wife and I, my whole family, 3 of us were going to Stopa the other day, and the walk light came on and we're ready, and back-to-back vehicles blew through the red light, not just one, 2, and they blew through.
Is there
So here's
anyone
a
in this
little
room that
known,
hasn't-
a little
who's gonna get
known
uptown?
wrinkle
I
in
just-
traffic laws. We have cameras at all those intersections, and we have cameras at all our main intersections in Mount Lebanon. And we are not allowed to use them to enforce red lights, running of red lights. We have appealed through Dan Miller's office, soon to be somebody else, with some other municipalities to have that rule changed, so we can issue.
Who sets that rule? Where's that? from?
State legislature.
Okay.
Like, no one can do it.
No, we can't, yeah.
Nobody can. That's fine.
Anyone else have questions for Ann? Thank you, Ann.
Sure.
I have one thing on my president's report. So Robin had mentioned our last meeting that the library needs to start looking at what we call this state of our street. This is pretty much a new strategic plan, correct?
We
It's
have
not
a strategic.
But this is
plan.
more than a light refresh.
Well,
This
all
is-
of the action steps have pretty much been accomplished or have been like passed by as far as their timeliness. So we need to redo the strategic plan. It's been 5 years since we've updated it. And I know with everything going on at the library this year, I'm going to have a hard time keeping this at the top of my priority plate. So I was wanting the board to help by forming an ad hoc committee to just help me set up focus groups, get the word out, create and develop the surveys, all that kind of stuff. The strategic plan will also lend some information towards our building project that we're going to do later this year, which is the main reason it's gonna be so hard to get the strategic plan done. And I didn't feel like it was fair to put all of that on the governance committee because they're already doing so much work with the policies and the other things they do. So I wanted to open it up to all of the rest of the board with Bob's okay, to have 2 or 3 board members willing to help out with the strategic plan, just mostly the organization and implementation.
And I'm assuming the rest of the board, particularly the governance committee, can still help lend an ear, lend a hand. We just didn't,
Absolutely.
we didn't think it fit super comfortably, either sort of mission-wise or time-wise into one of the already existing subcommittees. So we just wanted to gauge, see how everyone would feel about that and to see if anyone was immediately interested in helping with that.
I'll help out with it.
A volunteer.
Grants, you guys are
Great.
wonderful.
So there's Pete, Anthony, and Suzanne.
Yeah.
Anyone else
Who's-
interested?
Who is stuck working with me?
Well, Bob, I think according to our bylaws, Bob appoints committee members. So anybody that's interested, just let him know and then he can determine.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay.
I'm gonna raise a stupid question.
Go ahead.
Is there a problem with there being 4 of us?
There's not.
Yes.
Oh, there is. Oh, yes, there
Yeah,
is.
with their.
I know what she's gonna say. Yeah,
It's,
go ahead.
It constitutes a
Constitutes
quorum.
a quorum.
Yeah, so we have to keep it at 3 board members or fewer. We can have other people on the committee, like, if you're
Well, I
like,
know
hey, my
what it
best
is.
friend does strategic planning for a living and she's got tons of free time, then send her our way, you know?
I'll give up my spot if we can only have 3.
Well, I mean,
If someone-
if one of us is absent or something, I mean, it doesn't hurt to loop you in,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
just, hey, this is what we talked about, or whomever, you know, I can't make it tonight, you know,
Mhm,
or Anthony can, you know. It doesn't hurt to have backups.
mhm.
It's really, like I said, it's gonna be helping to organize the focus groups, planning and getting the survey out to people. It's gonna be a lot of contacting the public, which I think any of us can do. You don't necessarily need to be on the committee for that.
Do we have a timeline set up for this, or that's something that would be
That's something the
determined by?
committee would also help you with.
Okay,
It's like I said, if this is left to me, I do my best, but with everything else going on, I am not gonna, this is just not gonna be what I'm thinking of, because the day-to-day just gets in the way of these big picture things sometimes.
I'm not officially naming anyone to this committee tonight. If you're interested, text me or email me and let me know. And that goes for everybody here.
Mhm.
But that will be the plan for that. We will put together a special strategic plan committee who can focus on that.
And Susan, I think it's a great idea if one of the Friends Board members is also a part of that committee.
Yeah.
You might want to talk about it tomorrow.
I didn't know if there were any lines or barriers that would.
No, I think it would be brilliant. I think it would be brilliant to have,
Yeah.
Sorry.
because a big part of this is going to be contacting our supporters, our
Right.
patrons, and you all are so well connected with your Friends newsletter and
Right.
everything like that. So if we can ask
And I-
tomorrow
yeah.
at the Friends meeting, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, that was all I had. We'll move on to Robin and her director's report.
Okay. Are you all right?
Yeah, water went down the wrong pipe.
Okay. Okay, this looks like a lot of words, but I'll try to make it quick because I know Sharon's gonna need to come down and talk to you all very soon as well. So February is the worst month of the whole year, and because everything is due on March 1st. I'm currently working on the state report, the annual report, staff evaluations, and the audit. We also just had our staff development day yesterday. So all of this happens in the shortest month of the year. So it's just a crazy month, and then usually the weather's miserable and
Yeah, skies are
Lent
gray.
starts, so I can't eat sugar anymore after tomorrow, and I'm just, this is my least favorite month of the whole year. So, anyway, so I'm working on all of those big things right now. About half done with all of them. So, we're also working, yesterday, as I said, we did staff development day. It was a wonderful day. I want to publicly thank the Friends of the Library because they funded a very large part of it. They paid for Frontline Online for attendance for all of our staff members, and that is through the Pennsylvania Library Association. It's a virtual online conference that they hold the first week of February, but you get a like 30-day window to view all the sessions. So we view as a group several of the sessions on the day of staff development day. We had sessions on conflict resolution, customer service. The keynote speaker was the children's author, Christopher Paul Curtis, author of Bud Not Buddy, and a bunch of other absolutely wonderful award-winning books. So besides the sessions we all watched as a group, they can go back and watch all the other sessions and get up to 18 CEUs, and that was all paid for by the Friends. We also had a speaker from Casa San Jose, which is the Immigrant Services Center in Brookline, and they did a cultural sensitivity allyship training. We had a state of the library discussion at lunch, a discussion about the space planning project, and in the afternoon, Amy Anderson from the Allegheny County Library Association came by and talked about ACLA and all the things they do in the federated library system. And then the afternoon after that was spent on individual department meetings and projects and things like that. So it was a very busy, full day. I thought it went really well. I haven't heard any major complaints, so hopefully everybody had a good time. As far as the split space planning project, we are looking now at how this is actually going to all go once it gets started. How we're going to manage to continue to operate the library, which books and shelving units we're going to need to move or get rid of so that they can start the project when they do start. And trying to emphasize the need to accommodate the staff as much as possible while maintaining as many services as we can. But my priority is really going to be making this bearable for the staff. It's going to be a long project. The Draw Collective believes phase 1 is going to take 6 to 9 months. We're thinking it's probably going to start in the fall. We really don't know for sure yet. Of course, a lot of this depends on how the funding shakes out, when we get the architectural drawings, when everything goes out to bid, when the bids are received and approved by the commission. It's like a whole thing. So it's going to take a while. And it's going to, we're going to have to adjust a lot of the things we do this year. We're going to have to use some of our programming space, like this room and the Storytime room, for storage or staff use. The circulation office where all of the books are processed and returned, is gonna be out of commission. The automated materials handler is gonna be out of commission. So we have to find ways for our staff to process and get all those books moving through, without that essential piece of equipment. So it's gonna be a fun few months, Caitlin.
Welcome aboard.
Yes, so we're looking at, we're kind of right now thinking the mind, body, spirit area of where all of the displays are, the where we did the book sanctuary presentation. That's going to be kind of a circulation office area for a while. Like I said, this room will probably be used for book processing. The story time room is going to be the children's librarian's office, because
Yeah.
that
yeah,
office
all
is
that,
gonna go
sure.
out.
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be a bit of a mess for a while. And we're just trying to figure out now all of the little pieces, parts we're gonna have to move. Today, Jeremy came into my office and he said, when we move those shelves, it's either gonna be the old carpet underneath the shelves, it's either gonna be the old carpet from the 90s or bare concrete. So, and we don't have enough carpet squares
Sure, to
to-
fill it.
to
Yeah.
fill it up, because this carpet was discontinued years ago, and even though they
Sure.
bought everything that was left, we only have like 50 squares left. So, I mean, that could be several years before we get around to replacing the carpet on the adult side, so how are we gonna deal with that, make sure it's not a tripping hazard? Just so many details that we're gonna have to figure out over the course of this year. It's going to be a massive undertaking for all of the staff members. And all of the things I'm telling you right now may change. Like, we are really just feeling our way here and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for everybody. So, it's gonna be a process. It's gonna be a long, stressful year. Many of the large programs, I don't think we're gonna be able to do this year. I already told Sharon Bruni that we're probably gonna have to not do the Midsummer Reading Festival, the big outdoor festival with the food trucks and everything like that. And as well as Yola Book of Flood. We should have meeting room A, so you can still have your friends' book sale, the holiday sale, but the rest, the artist vendors
Yeah.
and this room will probably not be able to be used, musicians upstairs, all of that kind of stuff. I don't think we're gonna be able to do it. We're not gonna have the space. Everything's gonna be moved around. So we're just gonna have to keep everything pretty low key this year. So again, statistics are gonna be all wonky, but you know, it's needed to move to the next phase for the library.
Timing wise,
We're not sure yet. We're meeting with the Draw Collective tomorrow.
okay,
The estimates they've given us, and these are kind of off the top of their head estimates, are that it's gonna take 6 to 9 months, and that the earliest we can probably get started is in the fall.
and I think that's early.
If we get the Keystone grant, we're able to start, theoretically, we're able to start April 1st.
Yeah.
If we get it. And we have an 18-month window after that to
Right.
finish the work. But we're not going to be ready, shovel ready on April 1st.
No way.
So we're looking at the fall. I've told staff to start limiting the number of programs. They're already, Eric Meisberger has already booked programs through December. I'm like, we may have to move some of these or,
Yeah.
reschedule them or something like that. We may have to ask the municipality to use.
Some of their meeting rooms, I would think, yeah.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
like this
But-
meeting may have to move to the commission
Yeah.
for a while.
Chambers.
It just really depends. We're planning on putting story times in the learning lab during the day. Some of the public meetings, the groups that meet here, outside groups, we may have to ask them to find other places to meet for a few months. So it's gonna be a lot of change.
Temporary inconvenience for long-term improvements.
Exactly. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I do. So before, Yola Book of Flood's only been here for 3 years, I think. 4 years and 3. I don't know.
I know we
3 or
didn't
4
do it
years.
before COVID.
But before that, the Friends had a book
Always,
sale.
yes.
Yeah, always.
So we love being coordinated with Yola Book of Flood because that just adds
Yes.
more than you can imagine. But if that space is available, do not worry about us. We will make do with however that looks or make.
I think the main concern will be where you store the stuff for the
Yeah.
holiday sale, because you usually use this room.
Yes,
But,
but those are things we can think through and maybe then say, well, okay, there is no space to store this, and then just find a way to work around it or
And
through
we've
it.
got months to plan.
Yeah,
We're doing our best to keep meeting room A available for programming and the learning lab available for programming, but those may be the only two spaces we can do.
if something should shift or change and we wouldn't be able to, the world will still spin. And we will
I don't know
find
where I'll
another
get my-
way.
I don't know where I'll get all my Christmas presents if we don't have you folks there.
I know.
But I think maybe instead of having this huge sale, we could have this pocket of little sale and this
Yeah,
pocket of little
sure.
sale. I mean, try to find a way to just, it'll just look different
Right.
and it'll be whatever it is, but,
As of right now, the Friends spaces, we don't anticipate changing in any way.
Yeah,
Just this room downstairs will probably be used for book processing.
right.
Any other questions for Robin?
Mm-mm.
Thank you,
Okay.
Robin.
I'll keep you posted on all that, but it's completely in flux and we're trying to figure it all out so that when we do have the money and have all the plans in place, we can just get moving as quickly as possible.
Committee reports, Governance Committee did not meet this month. We will meet before our meeting next month. Fundraising Committee, Anthony, did you guys meet or any updates?
We didn't meet, but we have a conundrum, I guess, with the garden tour this year. And this is not a criticism of anybody. It's just we have a surprisingly low number of gardeners committed at this point. The 4 or 5 of us had an email thread going for a couple of days in which we were like, is there something we're missing? Is there something going on that we're not seeing? And there are a couple of things we're considering. One is to maybe do a bit of what we'll call the reunion tour, and going back to to gardens that perhaps we have used in the past. Marina did send a note late this afternoon, and I'm going to read just part of it, just so you have the context. She noticed that looking to the first 5 years of the tour, that many of the homes have been sold since then. But that doesn't necessarily mean those gardens are still up to date, so to speak, or still even existing in those new houses. But she does say that there may be 9 possibilities for us to consider. And towards the end of this month, she should have a much better sense of whether or not we may need to, dip into our history, so to speak, in order to come up with gardens. So a plea, if you know anyone who is a gardener, anybody who's been on the proverbial fence, this would be the time to say that 2026 is your perfect spot for jumping in and being part of the garden. We had at least, or the garden tour. We had at least one person who we thought was on board and had to unfortunately back off. So it's an unusual year, all other things considered, in terms of trying to secure the number of gardens we're used to for the garden tour. So again, a plea, if you know anybody, please encourage them to get in touch with Marina, or Marina can get in touch with them, and let's get that count up.
Do you not, like, do we try to avoid using the same gardens year after year? So you try to find a fresh batch of gardens every year.
We get
We-
complaints.
If we use the same.
We do, largely because there are people who have taken part in or have bought tickets to every garden tour, and they will primarily remind Robin or Marina or a member of the staff that, in whatever year this garden was picked, why are you going back again? And in fairness, I don't think those folks are doing it maliciously. I think that there is sort of it's supposed to be new every year. But we may be, at least for 2026, we may not necessarily be in the position to say it's going to be all new gardens.
I mean, is that a large portion of our customer base that's complaining if we're recycling a garden from 3 years ago, or is that like 3
They're
people?
vocal.
Yeah,
I mean, on the
see,
survey,
when-
Ones that are there every year.
Yeah, and the survey
Worse.
Mhm.
should use a word.
I would say do what you gotta do. If you gotta bring back gardens from
Yeah. I
2,
think so
3,
too.
5 years ago, do it.
Oh, yeah, no, it's, I mean, we understand that the idea of going someplace new every year, of course, who wouldn't want to? But we are in it may just be a 1 year hiccup, it may be the beginning of a trend, I don't know. But you know, if my memory is being kind to me, it was this week last year that the unexpected seventh garden came on board. And, you know, Marina wasn't literally doing a dance upstairs, but you know, you might, if you encouraged her, she might have. And so, you know, she is certainly feeling the anxiety that a lot of us are feeling, or at least asking what in the heck is going on here, because this does seem unusual, and none of us have an explanation that I think is worthy of considering or discussing, because we're not sure if it's right or just throwing something at the wall. So you're right. We may be in a position to have to go back to a return garden, maybe even two, who knows, in 2026.
I am not too worried about someone who's gone to everyone for 20 years complaining that they're seeing a dual garden from 5 years
Well,
ago.
I like the whole reunion. If you put it right out there at the beginning, they can't
Yes.
be
It's like,
mad about it.
we're doing Survivor
Right,
All-Stars.
Right? It's garden, like, if you put that in the
Mhm,
theme,
mhm.
you know, come at your own risk, I
Yeah,
guess.
well,
Yep.
wouldn't you
know,
be curious about the
right?
status of a garden you haven't seen in
Right.
35 years?
Right.
And if she's going all the way back to the 90s, I think those are
Right.
interesting. and
Yeah,
curious.
Yeah.
sure.
Like, what happened,
Yeah.
you know, happily ever after?
Yeah.
So,
Are
and as you know, Marina loves to say that Google Earth can be her best friend in terms of seeing what's literally out there. Although of late it's been nothing but white on the ground, but
Yeah.
you know, she is dogged in her pursuit of trying to find as many options for us. So she's hoping by the end of the month to have a better number than one. But again, like I said, any help would be definitely appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Keep us updated.
You got it.
Nominating committee, I'm guessing this is related to board officer positions, and it's that
Yes.
time again?
Yes, so let me read from our bylaws so that we do it right. The officers of the board shall be a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer to be elected from the appointed trustees at the annual meeting of the board. A nominating committee composed of 3 trustees, excluding the president, shall be elected by a majority vote of the board at a regular meeting held at least 30 days prior to the annual meeting. Our annual meeting is in April. The nominating committee shall propose a slate of officers no later than the annual meeting of the board. Additional nominations may be made from the floor with the consent of the nominees. The election of officers shall be held at the annual meeting. So typically what we do, we propose at the March meeting and vote at the annual meeting, but we do need to get a nominating committee together.
I think I was on it last time.
You were, and you were the only one I remember. Did anyone join you, help you? Did we have a full committee?
Yeah, Anthony and.
It was me, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah.
Do you two want to do it again?
Yeah. I just want to also, then I guess this is a good time to say I'm gonna have to miss the next 2 meetings in a row. I'm sorry.
I hope you're going someplace fun.
Well, one, I'm going to Dayton, so.
Okay, that's not good for
Well-
me, but you know,
Oh,
okay.
we repeat
The next, in April though, I will be in Holland, but
Ah,
thoughts and prayers because I'm taking my parents. And now that's on the record.
Dayton, Amsterdam. Who doesn't confuse the two, right?
Real,
Although Dayton is a great little city when you've been there. It really is.
Well, I'll only see the strip mall of my company's headquarters, so,
I mean, that's pretty much Dayton.
yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I
Yeah.
don't think of Dayton as being, I mean, they have the one
There's some
museum.
good universities and
Yeah.
yeah, there's a children's literature museum not far from there.
There's a
I
lot
won't
of
have,
years.
I won't
So-
have time for that.
So let's make Holiday and Kristen the
We need
nominating.
3,
Oh, we need
and
3.
you can appoint them. They have to be
I
elected
did-
by a majority.
I did
You
want to
have no
appoint
power
that.
here. You have no
I
power
don't want
here.
that power.
How do we do that? I put my name in the hat
Yes.
to be thought of.
Elected by a majority vote of the board, 3 trustees.
So Holiday, Kristen, and
Mara,
That's what happens when you don't come.
Do it.
Laura, okay.
I
So
mean,
somebody
that
needs to
works.
move that, right? And I can't, I'm not non-voting member.
That's right. So
Susie,
I-
you have to move.
I move that the nominating committee consists of Holiday, Kristen, and Mara.
should, wait, should one of you ask Mara first if she's interested?
She's at a concert. I'm gonna text her, but she's at a concert.
we have time. If she
Okay.
declines, we can appoint somebody else next month, or elect somebody else, I should say, next month.
Why don't you two ask Mara if she's interested? Tell her you need a third.
Okay.
And you can vote next month.
Vote next, okay, all right.
So the motion is off the floor because it was made and
That is
seconded.
correct. Motion is off floor. I will say, I think I can say this. How did we do this last time? You guys just emailed out.
I asked the people to email me.
What,
and then I
what they wanted to be considered for, and
I feel like we also just chatted about it at the meeting and everyone sort of said, yeah, I'll do this. I'll do that.
This isn't exactly a cutthroat board.
Yeah.
I can say this, this I can say.
I'm
none-
gunning for Pete's
I've
job.
been gunning for Bob's job.
None,
6 months, he
well,
hasn't-
let's say
hasn't
this,
noticed it yet,
none of your existing officers are cycling off the board in the next year. However, I do believe next year is my last year. I'll have to check that, but I think that's right.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Are we
so-
allowed to just keep it as it is, or do people have to switch off?
No, we can keep it as it
Okay.
is. But if he wants to challenge me, he can, and then there are votes and
Pistols
stump
at dawn.
stages
Arm
and,
wrestling.
Stump stages.
again, I'm going to be,
Swords.
I would be
Single combat.
forced to give mine up willingly in a year
Campaign
anyway,
dollars spent.
It
Yeah.
doesn't say,
Rock, paper, scissors.
it doesn't say,
lizards.
it says officers shall serve for a term of 1 year from the annual meeting at which they are elected and until their successors are duly elected, but it doesn't say how many terms you can serve, so.
I mean,
Oh.
my predecessor was president a bunch of years, I think, right?
I mean,
Evan, yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that how it works now anyway? You
Yeah.
just decide, make elections go away.
okay, well,
So is Bob's campaign slogan "One more year"? Is that
One last,
The last dance.
yeah.
okay, let's move away
Okay.
from this topic, it might be getting, into waters we don't want to wade through right now.
So I'll get hold of Mara.
Thank you.
Thank you, Holiday.
I'm getting away from it, not because of what Robin says, but because Sharon has been waiting patiently. So we will move to our state, our lending policy discussion.
Sharon, can you move up to the table so that we have to record the meeting for the municipality, so the owl is our microphone.
So before Sharon starts, if anybody wants to open up, I noticed that in our minutes, there is a list of the questions that we all started yelling at each other at the last meeting and stuff we wanted. So if people want to follow along, remind ourselves of what we asked at the last meeting, they are neatly listed here, thanks to Holiday, I'm guessing. And I will let Sharon and Robin take over.
Yeah, so the main reason we were looking at the lending policy is that we have concerns about the way some of our electronic resources are being used by the public, by card holders. And we were trying to figure out if altering our lending policy to limit Mount Lebanon card holders to Mount Lebanon residents or something along those lines would help in keeping our e-resources costs in check. And since Sharon and her team do a lot, they do everything with the e-resources as far as, figuring out how much they're cost, how they're used, getting all of the contracts and everything. I wanted her to come in and weigh in on how much this is actually costing us, the impact this is really making. And I just want to say that Sharon Verminski Wilson and the rest of Sharon Bruni's team did an incredible amount of work on putting this information together. They've been working for many hours on this since I asked them after the last board meeting, so I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, so we answered most of your questions. There were a few that we couldn't completely answer, but yeah, just going in the order. What is the impact, financial and otherwise, of making or not making the change? So we budgeted annually, and we've done that for a couple of years now, for Canopy, $20,000. And for Boundless, which is our ebook and e-audio product, or was, I should say, we have budgeted $12,000, and we've done that for a couple of years as well. We no longer have Boundless because Baker and Taylor folded under, unfortunately, and we have gone to a new product which is called Hoopla Flex, which is a product which I'll explain later, but allows us to keep our countywide Hoopla account, but have a specific account for Mount Lebanon cardholders for just access to Hoopla Flex. So what we spent in 2025, we spent a little over $16,000, $16,025 for Canopy. We spent the majority of the money, a little bit under 12,000 for Boundless, only because of the transition. We normally always spend the 12,000. So to give you an idea of the concern here is, so we have 593 individual cardholders of Canopy. Or users, pardon me, not cardholders, users. They are also cardholders, but and of the 593, when we ran the report just based from Canopy on home library, 178 of them were non-Mount Lebanon residents. However, I believe that to be a bit higher because for this report, I started individually looking up our cardholders, and I could see that there were some errors, or I don't know what they were, but when the cards were placed, the zip codes didn't, even though they said home library, they were not Mount Lebanon residents. So I can't say how many more because I looked at 300 of the 593 records individually, but I would guess that there are probably, I don't know, 200 and some total, or possibly higher. But then what I looked at was really interesting is what I did is I took the, from Canopy, I took the 103 users that used more than 50 tickets in a year. And so to back that out, the way Canopy is, we purchase, we put a price at the beginning of the year, and we pay for how many users use. And it's a ticket system, it's $1 a ticket, and that's how we get charged. So I looked at the 103 who used more than 50 tickets. And what I found was that our of the $16,000 that we spent, more like about half were used by non-residents. So that's pretty considerable. So we had a total of, how can I make this? Okay, so I didn't look at all 593, but of the 300 records I looked at, $5,904 were definitely spent by non-residents. And then I'm just guessing if I looked at them all, there'd probably be an additional at least $1,000 that non-residents would have used. So it really comes to about half of the cost. Now, the question was, the next question is how many people, these all kind of interrelate. So how many people could we anticipate migrating to Mount Lebanon cards if CLP does away with Hoopla? So here's the potential of the cardholders in Sierra that currently are using Hoopla. There are 19,324 of them. Of those 19,324 people, there are 5,075 of them that have Mount Lebanon cards that are non-residents. So potentially the answer would be 5,075 people could be using Hoopla, could be using Canopy, that is potential. We do not actually overly promote these products because we're fearful of those 5,000 people using us, and we would not be able to afford that if they did. So
If I can just jump in real quickly, I don't know if you were going to mention, but last week, the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh, their e-resources folks did a presentation to the library directors in the county, and they said they're going to be making some changes. You'll remember in August of 2024, they started limiting the number of holds that they reduced the number of holds you could put on, you know, that kind of thing as a cost saving measure. And they've already reached the point where they're back up to the costs. Like it costs as much now as it did in August of 24, even with the limits of the holds, because there are so many more users. So they're going to start limiting the amount of money that they pay towards the county hoopla. And that is going to cause, because we have a better product for Mount Lebanon users, it may cause folks when they're turned away, when they're, if you try to get a book from Hoopla at the county level at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, it might tell you, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to try again tomorrow because we've reached our limit for the day. They anticipate about 500 requests being turned away every day once they put these limits into place. And so we're kind of expecting the more people will want Mount Lebanon cards because we add things to our hoopla that the county doesn't. Sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
no, so yeah, when that change first took place, our users, our countywide users and our Mount Lebanon users were able to take out 10 hoopla items a month. And then they reduced it down to 5 hoopla items a month. And now these measures, as Robin says, are on a daily basis. And that's not an ideal model for any type of e-resource budget, because you're really going to have some dissatisfied customers. And so that kind of goes to, so Robin asked me what's an average usage for Canopy, and that's 27 27 tickets a month, which is $27. And so to put it out there, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is a worst case scenario. There's 5,000 people would migrate over to our streaming service. We'd be looking at budgeting, instead of $20,000 a year, we'd be looking at budgeting $137,000 a year. So that would be the change in the cost. And again, reminding you that, you know, half of that cost would be Mount Lebanon residents.
And that's completely separate from
Or
the
higher.
amount of money that we give to the county for e-resources for Libby. And this year, that was $95,000.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that additionally. When we look at the funding model for e-resources in general, and those are like Libby and Hoopla countywide products, there is, now CLP is the largest contributor. However, they are also the largest user. So looking at what their people use, they use 1,322,000 plus titles a year. And additionally, there's a rising problematic population essentially, and that is our out of county, out of state users. And it keeps getting higher and higher each year. From 2024 to 2025, we've seen a 27% increase in this user population, and it's high. So in 2024, 521,400 people were using us from out of the county, out of the state. And in 2025, it's 664,590 people. These are people that do not pay taxes, they don't contribute in any way. There's a user population that we have to somehow accommodate. And I'm believing that CLP is accommodating them, because I don't see it in our funding formula from the county libraries, but it does impact us. How does it impact us? It impacts us on how our users use Libby and how our users use Hoopla. So the more people in the pool, that's why they can't control usage in Hoopla. And that is why we're seeing the reduction in Hoopla, and that is why our people wait longer for Libby. So it does impact us. So I don't want to get off track. I'm gonna answer your questions in order. So we kind of understand how many people could be moving over to us. That's the worst case scenario.
Just real quick to add on to what Sharon was saying, the number of out-of-county, out-of-state users is about 4 times the number of Mount Lebanon users of e-resources.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's with us or they're the county? That's with the county.
With the county, at the county level.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I don't want to jump around too much. I'll go back to that. So your next question after, what's the likelihood of CLP losing people? I think Robin answered that with what's happening right now. We can kind of see the writing on the wall. And actually, when we made this transition to Hoopla Flex, we met with the purchasing people at CLP, and they weren't real happy that we were doing this. They didn't want to promote. They're having a real problem controlling Hoopla. So the writing could be on the wall here. So what is the difference between Hoopla and Hoopla Flex? Okay, so we want to plan ahead. We want to plan ahead for the inevitable that Hoopla will be dropped. Our users love Hoopla. We have a decent amount of people using it. We have, it's coming our way, yeah, that is that's the 19,000 people that are using Hoopla with Mount Lebanon cards. So Hoopla's popular. It got more popular after COVID. And so we want to keep it. If they drop it, we still want it. And so there will be 2 products we would purchase. So Hoopla Flex, which we purchase now, is by title. That's sort of the same way that Libby titles are purchased. And they're purchased by licenses, and the licenses vary between a 12-month license, a 24-month license. It can be based on checkouts, 26 checkouts, or perpetual licenses, which are becoming rarer. The cost is set up front. We just purchase it like we purchase a book. The titles pretty much, I want to say, like an average cost is about $90 for a title. That's ebook, e-audio title. E-audio seems to be a little bit higher. The cost is set, okay, titles are limited to 1 person per use. They get a 21-day default period in checking it out. And just like any book, they can put it back on hold. And then when it becomes available to them, they can check it out again. We have limited ours to 3 checkouts per user as well, because we thought that supplements the countywide. So now they can get 6. It's not bringing them quite to 10, but we wanted to be conservative with our first year just to see what the usage looked like. Ideally, we'd like to get it back to 10. The other product that Hoopla has, and we'd have to consider purchasing if CLP drops this, is called Hoopla Instant. And that's more of a simultaneous use, and that's really it's based upon, not simultaneous, but based upon user. So that's like Canopy is operating right now, like a ticket system, like how many users you have, that's what you pay for, essentially. And that would allow us, we can kind of pick from a variety of their products. We would definitely want to add video into this because that's one of the more popular things that our patrons are taking out. And we'd probably consider graphic novels because that's another one that they seem to like. So we can pick and choose what we want to pay for. And we're not really going to get that on board until we see what CLP does. Or if this is really damaging to our patrons, we might put it in place next year. So Hoopla Instant, more like Canopy. Hoopla Flex is like Libby in the purchasing model. But that would add to our budget next year for sure, if we start adding those products to it. So that was that question. And then, so how many out-of-county, out-of-state residents currently access e-resources? So I mentioned that earlier, and I said that I think that it's probably a little higher than what I had said. but we have currently, and with keeping in mind a canopy, it doesn't matter how many people, it's more based on the tickets that these people are using. So we have 28 patrons that are from out of the county, out of the state that are using canopy, and 150 people that are using canopy from out of Mount Lebanon. So we have about 178 people using canopy right now that are not Mount Lebanon residents. I think it's closer to 200 and something. And we have 67 patrons from out of state, out of county using Hoopla, and 240 of them from out of Mount Lebanon, 248 using Hoopla right now, so. And Mount Lebanon residents, to give you an idea how it's popular, 415 of them used canopy last year, individual people, and 1,445 of them used Hoopla last year. So Hoopla's pretty popular. Are there any libraries besides CLP that restrict access to certain databases? Bethel Park has a couple of databases, Universal Class and the Testing and Education Resources Center, which we have that one. Northland just has Family Search, and Swiftly does have Canopy. And we know that Swiftly, you have to have a Swiftly card to use Canopy. And I know they're not in the county, but I wanted to call out Peters Township has both Hoopla and Canopy. And that they have actually they have more tickets and more uses than we have currently for both of those products. And one of our top users that we're paying for, that's over 200 tickets in Canopy, as a Peters Township resident. Just throw that out. Okay, so
We know this.
A long discussion last time.
Oh, okay.
and
Holiday was gonna stop by and, help the judge find his checkbook.
Yeah, yeah.
So can I just understand it? Like, if I went in and wanted to use like 400 tickets for me, that can't happen, right?
It's
Each
limited.
individual
per
person
month.
has,
we do
okay,
20.
Okay.
We do 20 tickets a month.
okay,
For each person, and usually have like a 2-hour feature movie is 2 tickets.
okay,
And then a longer movie can go up to 3,
Okay.
or maybe very rare circumstances that there are 4.
So that's a max of 240 tickets a year per person.
Correct, that's absolutely
Okay.
correct.
but we're clearly not getting to like every person with their library card is not.
No,
Yeah, doing
no,
this
no,
in
no,
Mount
no, no,
Lebanon,
no,
okay.
by no means
Okay.
whatsoever. Ideally, we would wanna promote this more.
Yeah, but,
But there's a concern with
Yeah.
that.
okay,
Excuse me, Sharon, Peters Township has Canopy
They do,
and Swiftly has Canopy.
they do, yes.
And this has been asked, what are their policies about?
So you have to have their cards.
Okay,
The one thing that we are not sure of, but we didn't, because we asked that night, just their reference librarian, so they were able to give us that answer. But we don't know how they authenticate. My guess is they're probably authenticating the same way as we are, by barcode. And Sharon Verminski wanted me to to make this clear that when we set up Canopy, and when Hoopla was set up, several years ago, there wasn't an option available to use home library as an authenticator, but recently has become possible. They're becoming, and the reason why they're doing this is because they realize there needs to be some type of tighter management for these products, or they won't be affordable and people won't even use them, is essentially what's going to happen. So home library is a new option for us, and that's why it kind of became a thing.
in Swiftly, we don't know do you have to like show proof of residency to get card there, or do we not know?
I did ask.
Can I go and get one?
I didn't ask the whole county yet. I have
Okay.
asked the directors of the South region. And most of them are just using the yellow Allegheny County Library
Okay.
Association cards. They're not purchasing their own individual library cards like we do.
Mhm.
So they don't have that functionality, but most of those libraries also don't pay extra for special
Yeah.
databases and streaming services. So we need to do a little more research about how the other libraries are doing it. But, you know, because we're a federated system, we are all individual and can set our own
Yeah.
policies, so.
So to have a home library, you have, like here, Mount Lebanon, you have to have a Mount Lebanon residence. No?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought I had heard, but. wanted to make sure.
So there are a couple things, and Sharon will probably have to correct me, but you can be a Mount Lebanon resident and have a Carnegie Library Pittsburgh card,
Right,
I do.
as you do.
yeah, so does my husband.
Yeah. How do they determine home library? Is that the geographical location, or is that where your library
It should
card
be
is
where your
from?
address is, that's home library.
Okay, so your home library is still Mount Lebanon, even though you have a CLP card.
And I get all my stuff here.
Right,
Yeah,
but
so you know.
with your card, the way we currently have set up Canopy, I don't
I
think you can
couldn't.
access it.
So I would have to switch to a Mount Lebanon
Lebanon
card.
card.
Unless we
Okay.
change the way we do Canopy to home location. In which
Okay.
case you would be able to access both CLP's resources as well as ours because you're a resident.
Okay.
Can you have two cards?
Yeah,
Okay, so you have one or the other.
yes.
But home library does permit you to maintain your CLP card and still have access to Canopy without switching up. Because it would authenticate against your address
Oh.
and not your library card book.
Yeah, and some people in Mount
Oh.
Lebanon want to keep their CLP card because they have access to, they have a business center down there, so they have special
Sure.
business databases and things like that.
And more academic
Right.
resources that we don't have.
So kind of what this all boils down to is we're figuring that it's costing roughly $8,000 to $10,000 a year for our e-resources. Is that a good rough guess?
I think 10,000 is good, yeah.
Yeah,
But
for
not-
people that do not live in Mount Lebanon, or have Mount Lebanon cards, or they have Mount Lebanon cards, but they don't live in Mount Lebanon. They either live outside of Mount Lebanon or outside of the county altogether, and some outside of the state.
But factored into that as well is a growing e-resource payment that we pay to the county with
Yes.
depleted resources for our users
Right.
because the pot is just getting too big.
So I think our
So-
budget for e-resources this year was something like $135,000 roughly, and about 10,000 of that then is being used for out of county, out of state.
So to state succinctly, tell me if I'm wrong on any of this, it seems like e-resources costs are continuing to go up anyway.
Yes,
If Carnegie Library drops some of these subscription services, that could really even further catapult them up for
Yes.
us. And we have X amount of people, which at least some people in this room think are too many, outside Mount Lebanon residents using these resources with the potential for more to come on. Is that correct?
yes. And currently, e-resources circulation has started to flatline. We're still increasing the cost of it by 20+% every year, but this past year, it was pretty much flatline as far as circulation increase. Our physical collection, on the other hand, which we don't put a lot of additional funds into every year because, you know, we have to try to keep that e-resources line funded to keep up with the demand there. Our physical collection circulation went up by 2%, which for a physical collection is a really nice increase to see because most libraries, their physical collections are not increasing in circulation.
Sadly, even though we don't add a lot to the physical collection budget each year, we are the highest of all of the Allegheny County libraries, not excluding, pardon me, CLP, that our collection budget is the highest. And therefore, because the way that the formula operates for e-resource funding, we pay higher than our usages for electronic resources.
Yes.
So that's also contribution that we provide to the county when we think of ways. So if we're trying to think, are we feeling guilty because we're not giving enough? We are giving additionally because we pay more for our physical collection than any other library. And
Right.
pulling out Northland alone, who has much more electronic resources than us.
They have
They
double the
pay less.
usage we do, but we're always right around the same in the amount we pay, and this year we're paying more than them.
Because of our physical collection.
Because we contribute to our debt.
Yes, there's a state minimum requirement of 12% of your budget needs to go towards your collection, and that can include e-resources. Many libraries do not reach that 12%. They are spending their money on things other than their collection. We typically spend in the 16% range. So we spend about 16% of our budget on our collection, which is a great benefit to our patrons and the other patrons in the county. But it also skews the formula so that we pay more for e-resources.
And I just want to shout out to the library about that. If you want to look at how we're performing in that regard. So our adult books adult Mount Lebanon book circulation compared to CLP Maine Oakland book circulation, we circulated in 2025, 109,000. That's not our renewals because our renewals are much higher, but just solid one-time circulation, 109,000, where CLP circulated 131,000, and they have so much more staff and resources than we have. Our children's books circulated more than their main branch. Our books circulated, our adult books circulated more than Squirrel Hill's books for adults and much higher in children's books. So we're performing at a much higher rate with much less staff and much less financial resources. So I just wanted to give you a fuller picture of that as well.
What, how hard is it to pull back on people that are from not residents to pull back their cards? I mean, I have no idea.
Well,
That's the $1 million question.
Oh, okay.
one
It's a
option,
bit of a moral dilemma.
one of the things we had talked about is that we wouldn't, that anybody that currently has a Mount Lebanon card would be grandfathered in, and it would be a change that would be made from this point forward.
Are they renewable?
Yeah, I know, that's what, I feel you, Sharon, but
Almost 50% of your
Big-
user base being non-resident, and then it's just gonna, and they're, I mean, if you go home library, immediately they just won't have access. Like home library is the authentication, and it's only for 2 products. It's only for your streaming products. It's for Canopy. They can still maintain if they want a Mount Lebanon card. My guess is the only reason they have our card is for those 2 products, but you would just, I mean, anecdotally, this weekend
So-
was a
I'm sorry.
family of 5 came in just to get Mount Lebanon cards, and they all live in Wexford. And they
So-
wanted our e-resources.
So home library is different then, because what we had previously talked about was the process would be changed so that if you're a Mount Lebanon library card holder, which means we've confirmed your Mount Lebanon residency, you have access to these e-resources. Where anybody from outside of Mount Lebanon is coming to get a card, then if we make this change, they would just get the generic, like Allegheny County card. But this sounds like a different process. this
Yeah,
whole
there's,
library thing.
so, yeah. it
This is a new development. It
Okay,
is
So
drama.
we.
Okay,
and
so
that comes
explain this
from-
to me again, Sharon, I
Okay,
apologize.
So this is the thing that Sharon Berminski was telling me about, because she really worked a lot with Hoopla this year.
Sharon Berminski Wilson, for those of you who don't know, is our senior librarian, and she is instrumental in our collection development.
And she particularly manages the Hoopla collection.
Okay.
So she spent a lot of time this year, in working, because we found out very abruptly the Baker and Taylor were shutting down. And fortunately for us, we made a move to Ingram a few years ago, so we didn't have to worry about the big part of the change, but our electronic resources was the thing that we had to switch over this year. And so through that process, she found out that it is very possible to do this home library authentication. And what it does is, and then she reached out to Canopy and they said they could do it as well.
Which would mean we wouldn't have to change the lending policy at all. Really.
No.
People can still get Mount Lebanon cards if they live outside of Mount Lebanon, if they wanted, but they
Yes.
wouldn't be able to access these these streaming
Okay.
services unless they
So-
live in Mount
So,
Lebanon.
our entire user base would have a Mount Lebanon library card then, but only the Mount Lebanon residents who have one would be designated as home library in like a
Correct.
database.
That's correct.
Is that like our database or Canopy's database or like
So, well, it
who
would just
manages
be,
that?
so Canopy manages authentication. So we give them, what the authentication is and they can manage that. So they would, so essentially when someone signs up for a card, we take their data, put in where their home library is. And so if it doesn't say whatever our number is for home library, then they're just not going to
I think it's
this data.
73 or something in our
Yes.
database.
And we would be
Caitlin
upfront
knows.
about it. We would just say, our streaming services are,
residents.
are limited to Mount Lebanon residents.
So would then someone on staff have to go through our database to add home library to every card member who actually lives in Mount
No, they can
Lebanon?
do that. It's
Who's
your-
they?
Sierra, CLP could do, or, EI Network can do that for us. They can run a report. We can run a report to do that, to be honest with you.
Okay,
And they also have Jeremy was telling me about this, that they have they have something in place right now where they're sweeping on a regular, maybe annually, the catalog to make sure that people's at-home addresses do align with home library. That's something that EI Network is just starting anyway. So that will ensure moving forward that that's accurate, even if we miss it, they're
Okay.
regularly doing that.
so if we move forward with some sort of change, this seems to be like the technical way to do it rather than
Is-
distributing two different cards.
Yes, it would be an easier way to do it. It would
You
just be a
wouldn't have
matter
to
of
change the policy.
informational, just letting the public know upfront, that, we do, everyone's open to have a Mount Lebanon card. And there are things that they would get in addition to Canopy and, Hoopla that are unique to our library. So that would be like some of the
Creative
databases.
Bug, is that one of them?
Well, JSTOR, they would have access to, they would have access to our TERC, the Testing Education and Resource Center.
Mhm.
World Book, encyclopedias, there are some of the children's things that they would also have additional access to, which we don't care about, to be honest with you, because the way
They
that
aren't
they
cost
charge us for those are much more manageable. It's just the streaming model that is problematic for us.
Can I ask a sort of back this up? Who are the people who are Hoopla and Canopy things that only libraries use? Or are there other institutions who are purchasing this?
Canopy, yeah, academic libraries.
Okay, because like, we can't be the only one that is like looking at this thing that exists and it's like, you've now priced out the people you're
Oh, yeah.
hoping.
They always have, I think that's why they're starting to get more sophisticated with their authentication because.
So
of
that people don't just stop,
Yeah,
like that just seems, I mean, I work for a giant legal tech corporation and we're basically a monopoly, so I, I worry about these things all the time, like,
sure.
is there any groundswell of,
Mhm.
hey, Hoopla, hey, Canopy, you're pricing out half of your user base,
Well, it's
just from that perspective, like, we can't be the only ones feeling this.
when the libraries, the funding is so disparate
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania. I mean, you saw
Yeah,
the names of the libraries that are doing this are Sewickley
Yeah.
and Peters Township and Mount Lebanon,
yeah,
these are the libraries that can afford this right now.
yeah,
Although I say, I have to disagree slightly with that, only in the sense that you can budget, we budgeted $20,000 for Canopy. If you authenticated only by your community and your community is pretty small, you could probably get away with budgeting $6,000 and you could probably limit your physical DVD collection, which I know there's probably someone here that won't agree with this, but you could.
Sharon taking shots, what the heck?
But seriously, they are going down. I hate to tell you that, but
Right,
that is
sure.
sort of the
Yeah.
reality. So
Not in the next 12 months.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that you could do that. You could look at your physical DVD selection and you say, okay, we're gonna pay less for that. We could then budget for Canopy and it's authenticated only by the people that live, within Bethel Park, let's say. I think Bethel Park could afford it easily. There
Yeah.
are libraries undeniably that
They
can't afford it.
Yeah.
But that's when I think that RAD and other funding should step in place
Yeah.
that would assist them in being able to have this more equitably. But I think that the idea of limiting a user population does help people to budget appropriately and keep it in check somehow. And I think that's why home library is becoming an option for people. It's just 2 cents.
Can I be a hard ass?
Are you ever not?
Nope.
I've been waiting for Ann to weigh in.
So as a commissioner, I know that I'm gonna give this swimming pool as an example. We only give swimming pool passes to residents. You pay for them, but we only allow residents to have them. We do have a daily fee in the summer where we welcome particularly people from the city. In part, that is because we know our own residents. Pete goes downtown every day to work, I assume, or however many days you go, whatever. But you know, you use downtown things, so that has been a way of a give back. This is a horse of a different color. You have come back to us every year asking for increases to cover e-resources. I am not going to be able to sell the other commissioners, I don't think, on an increase in this budget if anybody can play the system across the county or across the state to get our resources.
That's a very good perspective.
This is
So
why
I'm
we,
being honest with you,
Yeah.
because that's just the way I feel. I don't have any
one,
notes.
this is why we love you, Ann. And two, the pool analogy, I don't think you were here, but we actually brought up the pool analogy
Yeah.
at our last meeting.
I mean, we have looked at the pool because sometimes we have too many people coming to the pool, and how do we limit the number of people coming? But it has never been that out of hand, like this appears to be growing to be,
Yeah.
so.
I mean,
So-
you're
I would
like 50%.
Yeah, I don't think I
Sorry.
can
No, that's okay.
sell an
I-
increase for the library, if
That makes
that's the way it
sense.
is.
I think
Makes sense.
I think a month ago, I was probably one of the louder voices of saying like, we should be inclusive and we should have, visibility for people to
Yeah.
come in, but, hearing the actual raw numbers of this is kind of changed my perspective on this, which I'm very glad we did.
Mhm.
Hearing this data, because, if you're telling me that we'd have to bump from a $20,000 line item for these e-resources to over 6 figures, I mean, that's just not sustainable.
And
And
the smaller library is actually more manageable for them. If CLP can't take on Canopy
Right.
because of this, it would be unaffordable if it will be less than a year for them. They just can't take it on.
as I sit here and I look, and I mean, my justification for this would be, okay, well, people pay their taxes. We get funding from various sources, we get state funding, we get county funding. 80% of this is Mount Lebanon. I'm looking at this and, I'm not great at math, but, out of a 2.5 million, dollar appropriation,
Right.
almost 1.8 is coming from the township.
From your tax dollars.
Right, from our,
To be
from
clear.
people that are
Yes.
paying into this.
I don't have any problem with advocating that those libraries that are smaller receive more RAD funding or funding from the state or wherever else. Because I agree with you, in my heart of hearts, I think there should be more equality, especially for something that's educational, for heaven's sakes. But I can't, in good
Yeah, I
conscience,
can.
commit tax dollars from you guys.
And you all know that I've been advocating for years for state level e-resources, and they
Yes.
are starting. They've
Yeah.
started Libby with the power libraries. So
Mhm.
those are libraries outside of Allegheny County and outside of some of these counties with money that don't have the
Right.
support system we have. They can access this at the state level, and there are Libby titles available now for them. So that's exciting, and it hopefully will reduce some of the pull on Allegheny County used by out-of-county residents.
I think at the very least, there has to be a change to limit to, at least, it has to be in county, at the very least. I mean, I think it's out of the question. I mean, I can, and taking away, I hear
That's
your
right.
position on this. And, but looking at the breakdown of revenue coming in, RAD is a chunk. I mean, it's almost 400,000. So I guess there could be an argument to be made there that people are spending money and paying tax to the county, and that's part of this, but yeah, I would have to say I would be a vote for limiting this to, at the very least, changing the policy to make it only for county residents. And I think there's probably room for a further discussion as to limiting it only to residents of the town.
So you're saying this wouldn't necessarily require policy change, which I don't have in front of me. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's
If-
still a significant change that's affecting.
If we can change
I-
these two
I'm not
resources, these streaming services to authenticate by home location, then that will not affect our lending policy, which discusses how we distribute library cards. Right now, anyone can get a Mount Lebanon library card if if they meet our lending policy requirements of being in the county or whatever.
It sounds like a technicality though, because it's
Yeah,
still
I'm not,
gonna,
I'm not comfortable putting that on you guys, like saying, like,
It's-
hey, this is like an administrative
Right,
decision we've
it's
made here,
still-
when this is a pretty big policy change, but it's
it's-
just by a different name.
it's still something that affects a bunch of non-resident cardholders and future cardholders
May I have
who
your
are.
attention, please? The time is now 8:30 and the
Who are
library will be
registering,
closing
correct?
in 30 minutes.
So where would this go? If not in a
Shut down
policy,
10 minutes to 9.
where's this
Please be
change?
sure to have your
And-
documents.
I think I would ask the board to vote to allow the library to authenticate streaming services by home location.
I think that, yeah,
Mhm.
and that's fine, I mean, even if it's not a formal policy change, I think there should be at least some
Yeah,
some
You can-
standards or whatever, like, I don't want this to come back
Yeah.
on you guys, on the staff saying, oh, this is a staff
And-
change,
and-
and you're not. putting our
And
names-
looking at what Robin just suggested and considering how long we've discussed this, and that's not to sound sarcastic at all, it's worth discussing. I'm not sure we should, I don't think we have to necessarily wait until next month. This is something we've been off and on looking at for at least 2 months now. I know Robin didn't make a motion, and I guess Robin can't make a motion, but I would suggest this is something that, because we don't need to make this a formal policy, that we, as best we can, codify tonight.
My original plan was to take a straw poll to see if the governance committee needed to work on a policy change to potentially present next month or whenever we present policies. It sounds like we won't need to do that because we don't necessarily need a policy change.
Feels that way to me though.
I was gonna say, I feel like we need to have, like,
I don't feel comfortable voting tonight, honestly. I don't think I agree with Anthony.
I think it needs to be put into the lending policy. I think that needs to be articulated somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not
that we vote on
necessarily
as a body.
opposed to that either.
again, I think it goes back to what we always talk about at the governance committee meetings, which is, it's fine if this group of people agrees with it, but if we don't have that written down anywhere, in 2 months, there's different people here who make a different decision, and then that's not, again, like Pete said, going back to the staff, that shouldn't be on you, like, well, now the board's gone
Right.
and we have, like,
There are
that's just not.
also, like, Sharon, the
feel
home library thing, Sharon, could that be like activated tomorrow? Like, is that, so that's in place and ready to go?
Yeah.
And then,
We'd want to put some language out there about that.
so that's my next question, for library card holders we have who are outside of Mount Lebanon who are gonna lose this, are we
We can
gonna
alert them.
notify them?
Yes, we should try that,
I mean,
absolutely.
And does this have to happen tomorrow? I mean, are we, yeah,
it doesn't
so
have
I
to.
don't think that needs to be rushed, therefore our policy.
Yeah.
if you want to talk about it in the governance committee, we can do that. And if you want to put a line in the lending policy, I don't want to do something specific about streaming services, because 10 years from now, we'll
No.
be looking at like holographs or
Different ones.
something, it'll be something different. But we could put something like, you know, certain library services may be restricted to home
Sure,
library
yes,
location.
Yeah,
Just like one
Make it more
sentence,
general.
and then we can determine what
That
works
makes
best
sense,
for us.
yeah.
I'll be honest, I thought you had to show up with your gas bill for Mount Lebanon to get a Mount Lebanon library card, so I had no idea people could just
Well, you do have,
waltz in and,
you do have to have proof of identification, but it doesn't matter
Where you live.
It used to, we're not.
Right?
My library.
Right? And I'm not imagining that, right?
Identification has their address on it, and that goes in their current.
Right, we just, it's
That's
proof
what
of
I
address,
count.
basically.
Cause I'm like, I always thought you had to show you lived where you're, like, I didn't make that up.
So we're
No,
running
that's
out of
right.
time, so I don't
Yeah.
wanna get down into the weeds, but basically, years ago, the state library, because they were funding, they were giving libraries extra money so that anybody in the state could get a
Oh,
library
okay.
card. They no
Ah,
longer give libraries extra money for
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but they still expect us all to give library cards to people outside of our counties.
sure.
And that is why this needs to be written down somewhere.
This is what I would like to do. I would like the governance committee, who is gonna meet next month, to take a look at our lending policy and see if it impacts the language in any way, and to see if, yeah, just to basically see how we're gonna put this on the books. Robin, I would like you to talk to Sharon and whoever else in your staff to come to the meeting with a plan of what the communications would be, how we would notify.
Okay, I won't necessarily ask the staff to come.
That's
but
fine,
we
yeah,
will work
they
on
don't have to
that.
come, but
Yeah.
just like, let us know if we do this, what the plan would be to notify existing and future library card members that this is going into effect. And
Well-
I don't wanna be too stealthy about it, but I don't
No.
wanna make a bigger deal about it
Yeah,
than maybe it is.
but also probably have some sort of response for the minimal pushback that will come from that, but.
Well, I know that COP is working on public messaging for their hoopla changes, so, they're really good about sharing their ideas as well, so we can talk to them as well.
And also talk to Laura.
Yes.
We did have to recently do a public messaging when we added Hoopla Flex, because what it did is people had to have a Mount Lebanon card to access Hoopla Flex. And if they didn't have the card, that they accidentally signed up as Mount Lebanon as their Hoopla account, then we had to ask them to change to their home library so they could get the county account. So we had some changes during that time and we navigated them. It took us, to be honest, about 2 months of, almost 3 months, I'd say, of trying to get people straightened out, but now we don't have any more questions. This one won't be as pleasant, I can tell you. It definitely won't be.
Or, and hear me out, we quadruple the size of the DVD Blu-ray section. And we tell Canopy to take a hike. I'm just putting it out there. We could do
Are
that.
we gonna lend a DVD player?
My
You
husband,
know what? You know what? Yes, I like the way you're thinking.
my
Kristen.
husband's ready to lodge a complaint because we're not purchasing in a 4K Ultra HD.
He's right, you're not. But
So,
I mean,
just to
just-
summarize,
I mean,
we're
Bible,
talking about
Well, because I have to be honest,
Limiting.
the majority of people are not Lebanon
Canopy
residents that have
and
Mount Lebanon
Hoopla
card
Flex.
because of this.
To Mount Lebanon
To
residents.
Mount Lebanon
And they're losing big
residents.
time.
Yes.
And the Peter
Okay.
Sonship.
Which would be
we can do on the
confirmed
back end.
through a new home library designation that is automatically built into our
So,
existing
and even
library.
though folks like
They're
Kristen have
probably
a library
utilizing
card from
the
another
Canopy
library,
Peter
since she
Sonship
lives
to
in Mount
its
Lebanon, she
max.
could still
And then
access
using
it.
us
I
to the
mean,
max, 'cause they're
I just
double
have it
dipping.
because I didn't actually
Right.
know that I
Right.
didn't.
Right.
So-
It is like not
Well,
good.
the library board.
But yes, they are coming to us for like that family of 5 from
Yeah.
Wexford. They clearly state, they don't really they tell us right up, we want to use Canopy, we want to use, so that's
Sure.
why they're doing it.
Yeah.
So yes,
So-
that number of people are gonna be the angry people.
Well,
Yes.
Is
Sure.
everybody, including Anthony, okay with that plan, where the governance committee will take a look at if this needs to be on the book somewhere? Robin will get us some more information on how it would be messaged, and then we can officially vote on it next meeting.
With that policy, we're looking at that whole policy, or just that particular?
Yeah, if we end up changing the policy, we'll just put it in the regular rotation to present in May
Yeah.
to promote in July.
We would probably officially vote to change how the staff deals with this immediately,
Mhm.
with the presumption that it will then be written into an updated policy later this summer.
But does this have to happen immediately?
No, it does not.
That's what I'm saying, like, just in the normal scheme of things, like, why do we have to act on this tonight, or?
We definitely don't have to act tonight. I guess our normal policies we're supposed to have done by like July, September.
Yeah, we present in May
July.
and then we vote on them in July. CLP's canopy change or hoopla changes are going to be coming in April. That's
So
when
that
they're going
may-
to start
But yeah,
Have them
having.
come over here.
Yeah.
That's when they start hitting us.
So that we might start seeing the effects then.
Yeah.
Sharon, I think we're interested in, as a board, into making this change.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
That
it
was
was
a
very
lot.
helpful and
That was that's
I
a
did
lot.
have one more thing. to
Yes.
say. We could look at something like, you know, we'll have a library account, a couple of library accounts for Canopy, you know, cards that are attached to our library. So if someone wanted to watch a Canopy movie at the library, they could come in here if it's something that's not available, because Canopy does have a lot of unique
Like the
things.
Criterion Collection
Yeah,
films. and
so
things
we
like that.
could say, you know, we have like, you know, we could, if you wanna watch something in the library, we could make that available too. So we wouldn't be completely restricting people
Good
to
idea.
the
Yeah, that's a
access.
good idea.
So Sharon is proposing the construction of an epic screening room when we do this.
I mean, if someone really wanted to watch something. or
That
read it
just
for a
added a
class
price
or
tag.
something
Yeah.
like
This
that,
sensory room is
we
gonna have
could-
surround
we could open up
sound
the
and
cards up
12
there
plus
with the
3
reference desk
Leather
and-
reclining
Yeah.
gyrating
I'm in.
chairs,
I'll be here.
subwoofers.
Listen, I've told everyone who will listen to buy the dentist and put us in charge, but I keep getting
Like a
told.
reference book.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Okay,
There's a whole
okay.
nother one.
We have one more thing on here, don't
Thank you,
we?
Sharon,
Yes.
so much.
Yes, thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Sharon.
We have a new business state ethics commission forms reminder.
They're in our shared drive,
Do
so
you
if
need
anyone
the
wants to-
second one? I mean, I already have one with the.
No,
Okay.
this, I put this on the agenda because I never remembered to give them to you.
Yeah.
This is just the form you fill out every year. There is nothing
To me,
different.
running to them
There's
at
nothing
the
to do.
Usually
11th
get this in the
hour.
mail.
They're so nice.
Maybe.
Everyone there is so nice when you come at the very last minute.
So Anthony, I have one for you. I can put it in the mail or you can come by the library either way, and I have one for Maura. These are just the statement of financial form saying that you're not getting money for being on the board. You're not using, you know, stock tips that Pete's giving you and things like that.
Yeah, I'll stop by probably Saturday to get it. Yep, that'll be no problem.
You can either mail it, you can drop it off. You can mail it or just give it back.
Has no one else, seriously, because I've been getting this in the mail every year. Don't we have 15 more minutes? It's not till 9, right?
Yeah, but we've kind of just dissolved into chaos and Caitlin is wondering like, about the life choices over there.
But you don't need one.
You've got your own, yeah. No, this is from the municipality. All board members have to fill it out.
I
every
have
year.
been filling this out and dropping it off at the building. I don't mail it. I've
Or
been
you
dropping it
can-
off for
You can
years.
drop it off to
So
me, you can mail it, you can drop it off at the municipal building, whatever. It's
Very nice.
And they're not due until the end of April. They're very simple.
I have a word of advice for everybody is what I do. I keep the first one of these like I ever filled out and like I know where it's at, so I can just go and be,
That's really
I just
smart.
zip through it because nothing ever changes. Okay, do we just have 12 minutes. Is there anything anybody needs to bring up, discuss? Any questions? We good?
Thank you, Caitlin, for
Thank you.
sitting here.
We are not gonna have time for the advocacy moment, so that's gonna get pushed until next month. Because the library's gonna throw us out. So I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thanks, Anthony.
Take care, everybody. Have a good night.
Ready? Cause you're going in.
Do you want it?
Oh, I.
It's great, isn't it?
It is
It's the
random,
best.
super random.
Go.
For you.
That